So I just bought a home. How soon can I buy another home? That's kind of a multi-layered question. Quick, if I'm shooting from the hip, the answer is immediately. There's no, immediate restriction on when you can, when you can purchase a home after you've purchased your first home, for example. There are some caveats to that. Obviously, if you are purchasing a primary residence, and if this question is asking when can I purchase another primary residence, typically when you're getting a loan for a house, you're going to be signing some forms that say that you intend to occupy that property as your primary residence. Most of the time, it says that you are doing that for at least a year after you purchase it. So, could you theoretically purchase another primary residence? 3 weeks after you buy a primary residence? Sure, you're not, there's nothing that makes that inherently illegal or unable to be done. But it would start to, open you up to a little bit of liability for, people asking questions about what has caused you to, turn around and buy two primary residences. There was something in the news recently about I think a New York prosecutor that got actually charged federally for mortgage fraud for doing, exactly this, purchasing two primary residences and turning around and renting one of them out, immediately after closing. So, if you are doing it for that purposes, I would always recommend that somebody doesn't do that. We also, if you're not asking about that necessarily, like how can you buy two primaries? Like I see people all the time who buy multiple investment properties, 2 days after another. They're, making offers simultaneously on multiple properties, as part of a portfolio, or they're buying a primary and a vacation home at the same time. There's nothing that stops you from doing that. So there's no like waiting period required before you get another mortgage, as long as you're not doing anything shady. There's no problem with it. Obviously, there are caveats to this. So like you're going to be restricted based on debt to income ratio, and you do need to disclose the loans as well too. So if you're trying to close on a primary residence and also close on an investment property like 2 days later, and you're trying to do that strategically so that neither lender knows about the other loan that you took out, that's a no-no as well too. Like, that could be considered mortgage fraud if you're taking out additional debt and not disclosing it to, the other person that you have an application in with. So generally what I say is as long as you are not doing anything shady, intentionally here with this, like you should be fine. Always disclose additional debt. Like if you're buying multiple properties, like I said, make sure that both lenders are aware of it. If you're doing it with different lenders, don't try to slip one past the goalie here, because most of the time, we will find out. And if we don't, there could potentially be, buybacks, or the loan could be called due. You could get in some trouble if you are not disclosing everything on your application.